Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you, I pulled this Zenith clock radio out of my Well of Souls, which is what I call the garage, where I've got a lot of stuff stored that I bought over the years. And this was in a box, and I pulled it out yesterday because I was kind of thinking about doing a clock radio thing, since clock radios seem to be popping up awful lot these days on, or at least the last couple of days on YouTube. People are starting to kind of realize that maybe there were some clock radios out there that were perfectly suitable as just standalone radios without being put into the bracket of being a clock radio. And I bought the Zenith probably 7-8 years ago at a thrift store somewhere along the Florida Peninsula. We were traveling to go visit somebody, and I ducked into a local storefront thrift store and saw this, and they were asking, I think they were asking $25 for this thing. But you know how that goes. Sometimes you just want to buy something. So, and it was a thrift store, so I went ahead and gave them 25 bucks. And the reason why I bought it was because it had a cassette player on it, and I liked the features on it, and I liked the fact that it was a Zenith, so I went ahead and bought it and put it away years ago. Moved on to different interests. I get distracted easily, and I've got so much crap I keep churning through my stuff. But what's really cool about this radio, or there's a couple of really good features about this radio. One of which it's four speaker. There's two in the front, and there's actually two speakers in the back. So, and what they did was they call it stereo wide, but when you have the stereo wide on, it has a really amazing presence. What I mean by presence is it doesn't sound like you're listening to a clock radio. Not or even most clock radios sound like you're listening to a transistor radio. They're tinny. They're not very, they just sound like clock radios. This you can actually use as a standalone radio. And it's got a few features on it. You'll notice that the bezel had fallen off sometime while it was sitting in the box. And instead of gluing it back on, I just taped it on, because I'm going to have to clean inside of there to get the dust off the bezel, and there was dust up inside where I would glue it back on. So just to get it going, I taped it up. But it's got the thing about this radio is it's got a loudness button, which is basically a bass boost, but it's got the stereo wide, and when you turn the stereo wide on, it plays all four speakers, and that's what gives it its presence. And it sounds quite good. It's got a cassette player on it, which on the top. But look, it's got nature sounds. Now nature sounds on a clock radio, I think you can still buy a clock radio that's got nature sounds, but it was kind of a fad that came and went pretty quickly. And what nature sounds are, I can't tell. It had three different. It had like rain, water running over rocks, and bird calls. I think that's what this one has on it. But there's a snooze button, power on and off, sleep and reset. But the front of it's fully configured. But the amazing thing to me is that I stuck a tape in there, and it not only works perfectly, but with the wide surround on it, it sounds almost as good as a larger standalone cassette player. So I've been kind of running through some tapes, and I put my Donald Fagen tape on. You know who Donald Fagen is, right? Steely Dan. Well, he went solo there for a while, but it's very much Steely Dan music. But what I wanted to show you, I guess I'm not going to make this too long. Zenith, this clock radio was made in the early 90's when Zenith was on its way out. They had financial difficulties, and they had been given an injection of money from LG, which is a Korean company. You've heard of LG. You know, life is good, the whole thing. They bought a 5% share of Zenith and kind of kept them going for another couple of years. I think 2 years after that, at which point they just bought Zenith out entirely. And at that point, I think the brand just like disappeared entirely. Which is really a shame. But in the last days of Zenith, when this radio was built, this clock radio, they were still apparently making a class act radio. The fact that the cassette player works really well, the fact that it's so sensitive, they actually tried to do a Bose thing with the stereo wide. It even kind of looks a little bit like a Bose. You know, all of that. It's really a shame, and we should all mourn the passing of Zenith. It's got a green display on it, but when the bezel was off, I noticed there was some kind of, there was like a mylar film behind it, which was giving it the green color. So it's probably was just white LEDs behind there. Probably wondered, you know, how did they get the green color? Because nobody's ever really made a, well, back then they didn't know how to make a green LED, but these are not LEDs. They're just, well, maybe they are, I don't know. But I believe they're white behind that that strip that's up there. It was actually a pretty thick plastic strip. But I'm picking up Tampa Bay, which is 219 miles from here. And I'm getting a stereo signal. And I've been running it for a couple of hours now, and it's not fading in and out. So it's got a pretty good lock on that Tampa Bay station. And I have been able to pick up Tampa Bay here probably about once every 3 or 4 years. I do a lot of channel sweeps on the stuff that I have. I'm always looking for stuff like that. But that's very impressive for a clock radio. It's got one of those god-awful wire antenna that sticks out the back, which I can't stand. And another thing it's got, which I can't stand, is there's that thumb wheel tuning, but this one actually sticks out a little bit. Most of the ones I've seen on cheaper radios are kind of recessed, and it makes it even more difficult to tune the thing, but this one actually tunes all right. I shot some contact cleaner up in there because it was a little bit stiff. It loosened up. But let me see if I can play you a second of the, maybe rewind this. Well, apparently I have to turn it off. Let me see if I can do this. There's the band switch, see, AM, FM, and sound. There's no tape setting on here. There's the sounds. Ocean breeze. What is, I can't read that. What does that say? Ocean, brooks, and can you see that? Birds. Huh, okay. Well, you want to try the birds? Let's go to... There's the birds. Anyway, there's the cassette player. I'm gonna flip it over. Well, for some reason I can't figure out, the cassette player's not working right in a second. I'm gonna have to screw with this and It's also got a record on here too. You see that? I wonder if that means you can record off the radio. It sounds like a duck. I'm going to put it back to FM. Hang on a second.
Drop your anchor. Just relax. We're smooth sailing into the summer. 105.5 The Dove presents the Yacht Rock Summer Tour, featuring Pablo Cruz, Firefall, and Pure Prairie League. Thursday, July 17th, Ruth Eckerd Hall in Clearwater. Tickets on sale right now. 105.5thedove.com. If loving Yacht Rock is wrong, then we don't want to be right. The Yacht Rock Summer Tour, only from Ruth Eckerd Hall and Tampa Bay's continuous light favorites. 105.5 The Dove.
Hurt in a slip and fall? Take back control of your life.
That's pretty impressive. Alright, well, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. It's clock radio after all, but if I can figure out how to get the cassette player to work again, I'll continue on this. If not, thanks for watching my channel again, and we'll just turn the page, as the Democrats say. I guess if you do something wrong and you get called on it, you're just like, that was in the past. Let's just turn the page and move on. Alright, enough politics. Bye. Well, apparently the cap stands are dirty on here. Anyway, that's what the cassette well looks like. Where's my finger? It's got some good torque to it. Let's do in play right now.
Reality, that's far from it. Vaping is ugly by me. Nicotine can have long-lasting effects in teens.
Let's fast forward.
Memorial Day savings all month long at Crown Hyundai. Get financing as low as 0%, 5 with 0 down or no payment for a year on over 700 new. Visit CrownHyundai.com. With approved credit, 36-month lease, 10K miles a year, $39.99 due at signing plus dealer fee and electronic money.
I think the switches are sticky.
NASCAR on Prime kicks off this month.